Is there anything that can slow down property values here at the Jersey Shore? It's no secret that one of the most rapidly increasing price markets in the entire United States has been right here at the Jersey Shore, and more specifically here in southern and eastern Monmouth County. The Manhattan exodus started during the COVID pandemic, and that brought a lot of wealthy New Yorkers down to the Jersey Shore and converted it from a summer or a vacation type of place to a full-year residence in one of the best areas of the country to live and raise a family. And with the pandemic nearly 5 years behind us, is there any end in sight? Because property values here in southern and eastern Monmouth County at the Jersey Shore have more than doubled in the last 5 years. So in this video, we're going to break down how likely it is that property values will stop increasing and maybe turn and go lower. If this is your first time watching, my name is John Natale. I am the owner of Natale Realtors here in Monmouth County. I grew up in this county. I've lived here my entire life, and I've been in real estate for the last 17 years. And I've helped hundreds of people move within, to, and from Monmouth County and the entire state of New Jersey. A lot of people who live here locally at the shore, especially those who have lived here for quite a bit, cannot even believe what is happening to property values. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, like this video, and if you think someone would draw some value from this, absolutely share this video with them. It made sense certainly during the COVID pandemic, especially when you saw an exodus from a lot of urban centers to those suburban areas around it, especially some of these areas like close to the beach where people could get away and work remote. But the reality is property values have increased more after the pandemic than during the pandemic. And there's a few factors that will most likely keep property values rising. Before I give you the case for property values rising, I will give you the one case in which they will fall. And that is some sort of economic calamity where property values across the country and everywhere go down. Although I think here in our area, most likely we won't shoulder that burden, a lot of other areas will. A huge downturn in the economy could certainly send property values down, especially when they've gone up so much, when people might be out of work, not be able to afford it, or whatnot. Even though there's already been a return to work initiative, and we're seeing that really not take too much of an effect here in our area, a huge effort to make sure everybody goes back to the office 5 days a week could change things for those that move down to the area, because some people are starting to commute 1 or 2 days a week back to Manhattan. And if they suddenly, everyone had to commute 5 days, I could see a place where maybe less and less people would want to live here full year around. And maybe then the property value isn't worth as much, simply because if people can't live here all year round and it just becomes a vacation home, I could see those property values coming down if a lot of people go to sell these homes. However, I don't think that's too likely, if I'm going to be honest. People who have bought over the last few years are extremely wealthy. Many purchases, even $1 million, $2, $3, $4 million, are made in cash. Many people who are buying here are not everyday Joes anymore, and are typically not going to be going back to an office for 5 days a week. And even if they were, they certainly would want to keep this property here at the shore, which will keep inventory extremely limited. Real estate has been, is, and always will be a supply and demand business. I don't think there's a shortage of people that want to move here to the shore, and I certainly don't see the case for a massive increase of inventory, especially with not some sort of sheer economic calamity where there's such a downturn in the economy that everybody in every industry is affected. Kind of like when the COVID pandemic started, when unemployment rose to 10% overnight. We saw what the result of that was, but in that moment when that was happening, it was very, very uncertain. Could this draw down property values? And then obviously we saw what ended up happening afterwards, with the interest rates going low, plenty of people moving out of city centers and coming out to the suburbs, and you saw a massive explosion in home prices. But the case for increasing property values here at the shore is very simple. goes back to supply and demand. Houses, even like the one I'm sitting in right now, which we purchased in March of 2020, they don't build these houses anymore. They don't build normal everyday houses. The land alone is too expensive. So one day, most likely, someone will buy this house from me, knock it down, and build a mansion on it because we have a nice big piece of property. And that's true for so many areas of the shore. You want a nice little $650,000, $700,000 house? Great. The reality is there's 6 developers that are about to knock it down and build a $2.5 million house on it. And so when that effect starts to happen, and there's a market for people that want to buy here, even for summer homes at that price point, it's very hard to see the entire market going down in value. Again, right as we currently sit on the precipice at the start of 2025, the reality is there's people begging on Facebook for homes, right? You go to a local group, any town around here, there are almost 3-4 posts a week of, hey, we're trying to buy this. Hey, we're trying to buy here. Hey, we need a rental. Hey, I need an annual rental. All these things, people literally begging on Facebook. And I'm not saying begging in terms of like a bad thing. It just shows the need for housing in the area, and there's just not enough supply and not enough inventory. You could argue if a lot of people were out of work, they would be forced to sell their house. I would also argue people will hold on to their low mortgage because a lot of these houses are either paid off or have a mortgage under 3%. People will hold on to them with their dead bare hands if they have to. The last thing people are going to let go of is their mortgage, especially if it's a low rate. And with so few houses turning over, especially here at the shore over the last 2 to 3 years, it's very hard to see there being a foreclosure crisis that would force people out of their homes and then pick up the inventory. And when we're on the subject of foreclosures, here in New Jersey, it's damn near impossible to actually foreclose on someone. Unless they are literally willing to leave, New Jersey would take years to foreclose upon a homeowner. Throw in kids, throw in making a payment or two, throw in having a low mortgage rate, throw in having a ton of equity. It is very, very hard to see there being a foreclosure crisis here in New Jersey, and especially in these shore towns where a lot of value has been increased. So the case for increasing property values really has to do with the limited supply. And here's where the increased demand is going to come from. Unless you've been underneath a rock for the last year or so, there are massive amounts of development, and not necessarily in terms of like building everyday houses. I mean, insane types of development happening in Monmouth County and on the eastern part of Monmouth County. They are totally revamping the Monmouth Mall and making Monmouth Square. There are massive amounts of development happening in the Pier Village area of Long Branch. And have I forgotten about the insane announcement that Netflix is moving into the Fort Monmouth base? As of this filming, Netflix just got a green light to start the building on 4 massive sound stages, which is just the very beginning of their massive Netflix project to make this area into not necessarily Hollywood with all the different types, but a massive East Coast base for filming. We've started to see this effect already in the last 12 to 18 months. There are an insane amount of celebrity appearances and a lot of different movies being filmed in Monmouth County. Now, some people will argue, oh, wow, that sounds like Monmouth County's changing. I hate it. I want it to go back to being a farm town, all these different things. I don't have any issue with that thought process. However, the reality is this will become somewhat of a Hollywood on the East Coast. Do I think stars are now going to not want the beautiful 80-degree weather all year round like Southern California offers? Absolutely not. However, you can make a certain argument where if there's a lot of celebrities and a lot of high-paying jobs, a lot of film production, a lot of this type of stuff happening right here, these are all great paying jobs, and also you throw in the celebrity factor that are going to need housing in the area. You have some really cool new developments happening with different types of multi-use projects. There, you could make the base project where property values could actually skyrocket from here. And that's why I firmly believe here at the shore, here in Monmouth County, the eastern and southern parts of Monmouth County in the whole, and the shore as a whole, will have a much higher chance of seeing increasing property values and the potential for 2025 to 2030 being another exponential rise in home values. Again, though, if you see a huge economic downturn, you see Netflix go out of business, you see them cancel their project here at Fort Monmouth, you see all the new development stop, a lot of people are out of work, you see almost depression level economy, I could see property values coming down. I'm not ridiculous. However, I don't necessarily foresee that when you look out at the economy as it is and with the amount of money they pumped into it during COVID, it's very hard to see that type of economic downturn that we're on the precipice of. Could we see recession? Absolutely. But a recession also brings lower rates. Lower rates mean more hiring, typically for jobs, especially the industries that are close to Manhattan, more innovation, more growth. And also, if those payments get lower for the higher priced homes, you could certainly see the value staying propped up by lower rates. So I'm in the camp leaning very strongly towards property values increasing the next handful of years, versus the camp that says, oh wow, property values went up, they have to come down because no one can afford it. The argument really is the fact that the new person coming in is not the person that's moving out. They are making a lot more money than the person that moved in 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, or even in my case, 5 years ago.